right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. As always, I'm your host, Omar, and we talk about stuff that matters in leadership. We're talking about, boutique retail, so wireless retail locations, AV locations, appliance locations, and what helps leaders become very effective at leading their sales teams and actually getting true performance from your team. Okay. Those are very big things that don't get a lot of attention because we typically put all the onus on the individual contributor instead of the leader that's in charge of shepherding everybody, of guiding and mentoring their teams to success. As a sales leader, you're not there to just handle the admin and, to play quarterback on sales interactions. You're there to lead your people to success. You're there to make sure your team is as successful as possible. And their performance is a direct reflection on what you've been doing as a leader. Okay. And that kind of leads us into today's conversation of why most coaching conversations just don't work. And I'm going to give you three fixes today that's going to change everything for you. Okay. We're leading with something that's going to be very impactful that you can take away from today and use it right away to have better conversations and have better outcomes with your salespeople. Now, if your coaching conversations aren't changing behavior, you're not coaching, you're just talking. I've said it before and I'll say it again. When it comes to leaders, when it comes to conversations that we have with our team, it should be them doing the majority of the conversation of the steering, right? We're only kind of guiding the conversation. We're not the ones, talking 80% of the time, telling them, you need to do this, you need to do that. Your performance is slack here, your performance is slow here. This is what needs to happen. This is what I need. When you have those conversations are termination conversation. Those are PIP conversations. Coaching conversations are not that. That's the big difference. And unfortunately, a lot of companies can't differentiate between the two and they don't do the proper coaching and training that they need so that people understand what the difference between them. They think that as a leader, I have to do the majority of the talking. It's like, no, no, you don't. You don't do the majority of the talking. Your people do the majority of the talking. That's the big difference. Now, that, as mentioned, is not coaching. That's just you telling things. That is you telling people things and they won't take ownership of it because there's a difference between when someone takes ownership in a conversation and they're the ones telling you what's going to happen and the difference between when somebody won't, right? And when you're telling them, that's the big difference. They're not taking responsibility because you're telling them what needs to happen, what they need to do. When they are the ones talking, they're the ones telling you what the actions are going to take, what they're going to be responsible for. They're giving you their action steps. They're being active in the conversation. And that's super important for coaching sessions. A lot of people don't do that. And that's one of the biggest differences that you're going to have. Okay. Now, in that instance, when you're the one telling them what to do, you're not coaching, you're just micromanaging. That sucks because you're correcting them on things that they're not aware of that they were doing. And you might be thinking, okay, I'm telling them what they're doing, and you're not understanding the behavior behind it. You're not letting them process the thoughts behind what is occurring. And you thinking that you're reminding them of what needs to happen is them actually taking and acknowledging the information isn't what's actually occurring. It's just like on any sports team. The moment that you have that aha moment that this is the reason why I need to do this particular practice because of this particular play, that's when it clicks. But they're the ones who have to find that out. And they don't do that by you constantly telling them, do this, do this, do this. You might be thinking you're Mr. Miyagi, but you're not Mr. Miyagi, right? You're not teaching them anything. You're just telling, and that's it. You're not walking the walk. You're not showcasing why it needs to happen. You're not doing any of that. Mr. Miyagi showcased it and did it, right? Wax on, wax off. And then boom, it's like, oh, that is why this is important. That's the moments we're looking for. And that happens when you showcase, when you actually put, what you're saying into practice. And that doesn't happen by them doing it. That happens by you showcasing as a leader. So that's where you need to, as a leader, stop talking and start guiding. So that's very important, right? You as a leader, as a manager right now, working your way towards a leader, you think that by giving them the answers, by leading with the answers, they're going to know what's occurring, what's happening, why this is important. But it's not. You need to lead with questions. That's what a true coach does because you're making them find the answers. You're making them think through the process. You're making them visualize what needs to happen. And remember, guys, visualization is one of the strongest role playing tactics that you have as a leader that can be done at any point. It doesn't have to be awkward, right? It doesn't have to be anything. And it can happen in a very short span of time that actually has more impact on performance than anything else. So that's why it's important. Don't lead with the answers. Ask questions. Be a coach. Lead with questions. Guide them. And if they say, I don't know what else to do, I don't know what to do, I don't know, I'll do this. Okay. Don't wait and don't just give in to a simple single answer that isn't thought out. They're just trying to give you something to shut you up, right? We all know this. Your instinct is going to be, I need to jump in and, well, okay, if this is what you're going to do, you also need to do this, this, and this. Once again, when you're telling them, when you're giving them the answers, you're taking away their ownership of what's occurring. Instead, try this little tidbit. Use the what else method. It's a way to help your team, to help your salespeople uncover their own opportunities. Because when you say what else and you just shut the fuck up, let them talk, that silence, once again, I've told you guys this, as sales leaders, you're going to be silent. Your customer is a different persona now. And when you shut up after saying, well, what else? And you have that awkward silence, they're going to fill that void and they're going to think about, okay, what else can I do? And they're going to give you a more thought out answer. And then you go in again and you ask, what else? And it kind of pushes them even more to, okay, I really need to think about this. And then once again, you go in with, what else? Ask it at least 3 times. Don't be a dick. Don't ask it a 10th time. Ask at least 3 times. You can go in for the fourth. If the third, after the third, what else? The response is well more thought out. It's fleshed out. It has a lot more actual action of what they're going to do with it. Cool. Leave it at that. If after the third, what else, when you ask, and they say, I really can't think of anything else. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with your team coming in and saying that after the third, what else? It really means that they've exhausted their mind power. Remember, guys, I've said this before too, that part of what you're going to be doing as a coach is helping your team build new synapses. Okay. They're literally building new neuron pathways in their brain because you're making them do something that they haven't done before. And that's think and process information differently. That is one of the biggest things that you're doing as a leader when you're doing your coaching sessions. That's why it's imperative. That's why it's super important for you to guide your team, ask them questions, have them be the ones that actually answer the questions and give you their feedback, give you what they're going to be talking about, what they're going to be doing in those instances. That makes the difference with how they're going to be taking ownership and their performance over what's going on. Okay. Now, when they take ownership, that is their buy in. You don't need to do anything else. It's no longer, okay, they're going to be on the defensive on, okay, well, that's not what I'm doing. That's not, no, they're telling you, they're giving you feedback, they're giving you honest insight into their process. And then you as a leader have a better idea of where they actually stand. And you know now you should understand that this is now a window into the training that they have or lack of training, and where I can come in and assist with proper training to be able to help them in certain areas. That is part of the reason we do it this way, instead of just, this is what you got to do, that's that. And then, okay, well, you're not cutting it, so I'm just going to fire you and find somebody else. This is why great leaders don't have high churn rate, because their people understand, hey, this person is putting in work to make me better. They actually care about what I have to say. They actually listen, and they're taking my feedback into consideration. Just because you take their feedback into consideration, guys, when I say being empathetic, listening, feedback, that doesn't mean they get to run the show. I've said this before, we are not BFFs. You're there to help guide and train them. It's a team effort. It's not a family. It's a team effort. It's a team that we're working with, right? So we go from there. So remember, guys, the first thing you guys need to work on is the three what else. Very simple tactic. And if you think, my God, this is too fucking simple. Remember, guys, it doesn't take a genius to overcomplicate things. Any moron, any idiotic moron can do that. True genius comes in making things simple. Simple is repeatable. Repeatable gets done. Simple gets done. We'll keep it that for the three what else's. Okay. Now, the other thing when you're doing your coaching sessions with your teams, you might be coming in with like a list of things that they got to get done, a list of areas of improvement, a list of, fuck the list, guys. When you're doing coaching sessions, we want to focus on one linchpin metric, okay? At a time. Don't come in with a list of 5, 10 different things that you got to work on. We want to focus on one linchpin. If you guys haven't already, take a look at the bio, take a look at the description of the video, grab that 15-minute framework. It's there. It's the keystone habit. It's set up in a way to make it super easy to actually use it and get something out of it. Your people will actually find a way to make this a lot more workable for them. And when you do that, when you have a keystone habit to really focus things on, when you have a linchpin metric to really keep everything else tied together on, it makes their focus that much easier because they're not having to, well, I got to remember, gross ad metrics. I got to remember protection plans. I got to remember this, and this. That's all right. So if I focus in on this one metric, if I'm asking this, I've already hit, talking about gross ads and upgrades. I've already hit talking about wearables and protection. I've already hit about home services and this one product, this one service, one, one linchpin. In the 15-minute framework, I talk about how we want to keep the focus to about three items, right? Three things that they did well in before, or their goals that they hit the month prior, three that they want to hit this month, right? Obviously, it's going to be the same metric over. So we want them to focus on those three. And then we want them to pick one that's going to be their main focus. That one is the one that they can tie everything else around. That is their linchpin metric. That is their keystone habit. That is what they're going to be focusing around because that one will help them achieve all the other ones. It makes it easier to digest. It makes it easier to remember. Picking one metric helps to move the others when you're doing it properly. And that's super important. So if you haven't, like I said, take a look at the link in the bio, take a look at the description of the video, grab that 15-minute framework. It's free for you to download and use it. You can start using it right away. It's a PDF that you'll get. Super easy. That's that. Uh, Now, when you're doing your coaching sessions, keep in mind that 15-minute framework is for you as a leader to help facilitate the coaching session, the training session. Why do I call it a 15-minute framework? Because it shouldn't take more than 15 minutes. At the beginning, it is going to take you more than 15 minutes because you have to learn it. Just like everything else that you learn, it takes time. Once you've done it a few times, you realize how simple it is. So, okay, I can do this. I can move forward with this. I can do this better. Cool. Part of coaching is not a one and done. If you've ever played on any kind of team, if you ever did any kind of sports, if you've ever done any kind of art, right? I'm talking to you guys that, theater kids, if you've ever done any art pieces, I don't care what your background is. You guys know it's not a one-time thing. The first iteration is always going to be kind of like the sucky iteration. And then you continue to do more and more and more. You follow up with it. As a coach, you have your first coaching session. Could be at the beginning of the month. Could be at the beginning of the week. I always say do it at least twice a month, at the beginning and mid-month, right? Makes it easier, makes it follow through. If they're new employees or they've been underperforming, then I would say do it on a weekly basis. Okay. Or I probably wouldn't do it more than twice a week. Okay. Because you got to give them time to be able to move the needle. So checking in once a week does wonders. And don't be quiet about it. Okay. You have to have follow through. It's coaching. Okay. It's not just giving them suggestions. You're coaching them. When you just meet with them once, you tell them what to do, they take it as suggestions. They're not, once again, taking ownership. They're not taking it to heart. When they're the ones in charge of the conversation, they're taking ownership of the conversation. They're taking ownership of the actions they want to take. They're taking ownership of the direction that they want to move in. That's where it becomes a true coaching session. And then also reinforce training and developing. Okay. As a district, regional, obviously you have to ensure that you've trained your coaches, you've trained your trainers, which are your sales leaders, your store managers, your assistant managers, your store leads. You have to spend time coaching, training, and developing them so that they can do this in your stead. At the beginning, it is going to be you doing most of it, but you should be developing your leaders to be able to do this because it becomes a lot easier. It doesn't matter if they do it 70 to 80% as well as you do. When you multiply that or, around 4, 5, 10 different leaders, that is 300 to 800% times better than what you can do on your own. Delegating does more wonders for you as a leader. So training and developing your leaders to do this is a way to delegate the training, the developing of your teams. And because they spend more time with their individual people, they're able to tune in the training towards those individuals better. But you got to give them and you got to facilitate the training and developing of your leaders to do this. Uh, and remember, stuff like daily drills, reinforcement questions, and simple check ins will build consistency. And that allows them to actually retain a lot more of the information because they're able to use it more often. They're able to actually use it after learning it right away because we're chunking pieces of information, chunking trainings, and they're able to actually retain it and be like, oh, okay, this is why we're doing it this way, or this is why I want to do it this way. Boom. Now they've had that aha moment and they're going to be a lot better, a lot more proficient at what they're doing. And when reps know and understand and expect that we're going to be doing follow-up sessions on the coachings, they perform better because they know I'm going to inspect, what I expect. I'm not just telling them something and I'm never going to see them again for, or revisit that for months. Consistency as a leader is super important. As a leader, you have something that a title, and not just a title, but a level of authority that at some level they give some kind of respect to. Okay. Whether they admit it or not. But when you become inconsistent in what you're doing, that's where you start losing ground in their eyes. So consistency through the coaching builds a lot more trust. It builds a lot more faith in you as an individual leader that you're going to do everything you can to make sure that they not only perform, but that they thrive, that they grow, that they can do what they've said that they want to do. Okay. And if you're wondering, you know what? At the end of your coaching session with them, just let them know, hey, when I see you next, what should I expect to see you doing differently? Something as simple as that. You're letting them drive the conversation. You're letting them take ownership of what's going on. And that's super important for your team. So, guys, coaching doesn't have to be complicated. It isn't complicated. It's about being consistent. So, if you're ready to start coaching like a pro without adding anything more to your plate, you guys already know what I'm going to say. Grab that 15-minute framework. You guys know where it's at. And as always, I want to say thanks again for stepping in to another episode here at Sales Manager Academy. I'm Omar, and I'll catch you on the next one.